throughout the season, we're going to do our best to talk to quarterbacks about the quarterback, and there is nobody to start this with better prepared, that understands, honestly, the problems at the quarterback position really since he stopped playing for the Burgundy and Gold. Our friend, Mr. Joe Theismann. Joe T, what up, man? How are you?
I'm good, guys. How are you all doing?
We're doing good, brother.
We're great. Are you in town, Joe? Are you in D.C.?
Actually, no, I'm not. We're out of town for a few days, but I'm
Okay.
I guess the clubs are closed on Monday. That's why BMitch is there, right?
Joe, man, you play way more golf than I do. Every time I go to a golf tournament, they say Joe just left.
I was going to, if you were in town, Joe, we're live at Lost Rhino Brewing. I was going to buy you some chicken wings and maybe a growler, but since you're out of town, we'll take a rain check.
Appreciate the invitation. I'll be happy to take the rain check. You got it.
Sounds good, man.
All right.
Well, so did you get to watch the Commanders this weekend, and kind of what were your thoughts on the rookie quarterback?
I watched some of the game. I watched the beginning of it and had a chance to see what Jayden did. I mean, it's incredible that we get all the hype. Obviously, knew he had to be the number one pick. Had all the hype, all the Heisman Trophy, and the way he played ball and everything that we've seen going up until this football game on the road in New York, which is a different experience. You know, BMitch, you know what it's like. It's different to open at home, and then it's different to be on the road. And he comes out and he does some really, really special stuff. And you basically want to say to yourself, as advertised, it's a very small sample, but I think it's enough to get us excited about his ability. And I think it's a little bit of an indicator of what Cliff Kingsbury wants to do with this offense. We have not necessarily been a very good downfield football team. And that's the way you score points. And that's, our biggest thing has been, we've been scoring around 20, 21 points, and it's just not enough in this league today to be able to win football games. So you have to get the chunk yards. You have to throw the ball down the field. And that dime he threw yesterday was very, very impressive.
Yes. And he does that in practice all the time, Joe. But when you look at the running play when he went into the end zone, you see how that defense was playing very, very careful in a sense, which I think is going to make other defenses have to be concerned about the ability for him to do that as well.
You really have to. I mean, the thing about having the ability to run, it's the threat by itself that creates opportunities, and that's exactly what Jayden is able to do. The read option is something that's become a big part of football of the last 5, 10 years, I guess 5, 7 years. And you need someone with that athletic ability. But the thing you have to temper yourself as a young guy is you have to know when to run and you have to know when not to run. And that is something that I've noticed watching him in practice a little bit. He has great pocket discipline. He's not in a hurry to get out of there. They're going to call running plays for him to be able to use his legs, which is great. And he's going to be smart about it. That's the big thing. He has to be smart about running. Somebody asked me this the other day. Well, what do you expect from Jayden Daniels? I want him to play 17 at least football games. I want to see him line up every week because each week he lines up, he's going to learn more. He's going to get better. And this is the big thing, Mitch, and you know this. When you studied film, if you could study yourself, you know why you made the decisions that you made. It's the same thing at the quarterback position. It's one thing to sit in a quarterback room and watch somebody work, but you don't know what's in his head. Now, if you're out there on the field and you're making decisions, you know why you made it, and that's something you can improve on. And so for me, if he stays healthy, I think we're going to be perfectly fine. And that's the big thing. And, it's a demanding season. It's a lot different than college ball.
It's, Joe, there's been a lot of rookie quarterbacks, high first-round draft picks, whatever, and so much has seemed to go wrong, right? And I'm just curious. I'm sure you've got to talk to him, and in the last 10 years, we've seen Robert, we've seen Dwayne. You go further back, they draft Jason Campbell. Jayden to me just seems different as a person, as kind of a worker, as the first guy in, all those things. I'm curious what you've thought of him, on the field. We saw at LSU, and now we saw just a little brief, snapshot. But what have you learned of him as a dude?
I think a lot of guys have to learn how to be professionals. Jayden comes in knowing how to be a professional. He knows how to study. I guarantee he knows how to take care of his body. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but you don't need to be. If you take care of yourself, if you're smart, if you protect yourself. He has great study habits. They use the virtual goggles, which, really, it's different than when we played. Heck, the only goggles we ever wore was when we went into the tub. That's all we ever wore. When we were, when we were feeling pretty good, we go in the tub, sit down, and put some goggles on. But now you have a chance to be able to study the game more in depth, and he wants to do that. He embraces that. That's the thing you hear about the coaches talk about. Him wanting to embrace the change, the newness, the challenge that's ahead. He understands what this stage is all about. He's played on the big stage. He's won the Heisman Trophy. Mike Denbrock did a great job with him down at LSU. Now we have Mike at Notre Dame, which I'm excited about as well. But I just, when you say, what are you looking for in a young quarterback? He fits the bill. He's humble. He understands what he needs to do. And at the quarterback position, what we really are is facilitators. It's our job to get the ball to the right people so that they can do their job. But still, it all depends on the five guys up front. We could talk till we're blue in the face about the position, about what needs to be done. And like I say, he checks all the boxes. But to be able to have time, to be able to do the things that you need to do from that position, it requires those five guys up front to be able to do their jobs as well.
You watch him in the pocket. He seems to be a guy who works the pocket very well, and he gets rid of the ball rather quickly. When you're talking about an offensive line trying to come together, that quarterback with his timeliness can help them out a little bit as well, don't you think?
Tremendously. It's a great point. Great point. If you hold the ball, you're going to, your offensive line can only hold it for so long. And with these speed rushers today, Tom Moore, who coached in Indianapolis and had Peyton Manning, Tom and I used to talk all the time. Gosh, we did football camps many, many years ago, and he's always been a great friend and a great quarterback mind. And when he got Peyton Manning, he told me, I said, what do you want to do with him? He said, I want to do two things. I want to make sure he doesn't get beat up physically, and I want to make sure he doesn't get beat up mentally. And by not getting beat up physically, you get the ball out of your hands quickly. It protects your quarterback, and it protects the guys up front. So they have a little bit of they have that clock in their head as well. So they know when you're supposed to get rid of the ball. They understand the concept. And if you hold it a beat longer, they know they're going to get beat. And then you want to be able to have routes that you can get the ball out of his hands. You don't want him standing back there waiting on an 18-15 comeback. You've got to put him on the move. You've got to put him with play action. And, our running back room is very deep. Our wide receiver room, I believe, is very deep. So you've got complements around him. Now you want to be able to put him in a situation where he gets protected with the things that you do in the concept of the offense.
Talking with our friend Joe Theismann here. Redskins, great in the 1983 season. The Redskins went 14-2. Joe had 29 touchdowns, was named Associated Press Most Valuable Player of the NFL. You can follow Joe at Theismann7, Theismann 7. You mentioned the O-line there, Joe. They are kind of dealing with some injuries. As a guy that used to line up behind one of the most legendary offensive lines in football, when does a quarterback, because I think it's entirely possible that Jayden isn't getting much work with the starter, with who's going to be his starting O-line. In whether it's Lucas, Coleman, or Wiley, those guys are missing some time. As a quarterback, when do you need to start building that cohesion with your O-line prior to week one?
It's the first time anybody's ever asked that question, which is really great, JP. But I think it's, that you have to just get the ball out of you help them. So, we've sort of dealt with this. I mean, it's been like a deck of cards for us for years here. We lose a center, we lose a guard, we lose a tackle. It seems like that's almost been the mantra in Washington. Is yes, we've struggled at the position, but we've also had problems up front where we just can't keep people healthy. I tell people all the time, when you get towards playoff time at the end of a season, take a look at the offensive lines that have played together over the longest periods of time. They're probably going to be the ones that are in the playoffs or vying for a championship. You think of Philadelphia a couple of years ago. Look at Kansas City. You look at the Cowboys, the runs they've made and the success that they've had. It's all built in San Francisco. It happens with the guys up front. Happened with us. How long does it take? I think that's for those 5 guys to work on. They'll do what they need to do. Jayden just has to stay what he needs to do, and that's get the ball out of his hands, make good decisions, and and don't take unnecessary hits, don't take unnecessary sacks. You take a sack on 1st and 10, the chance of getting a first down is like 12%. Right. So all those things are broken down in percentages, but I think the cohesiveness of the offensive line can come, and you have to have versatility, which we do now. You've got guards that play centers that play guards, the swing tackles. I think that those guys will come together, but the only way they're going to be able to do it is once we get into the season, because there's not enough time in preseason, and you're not going to put them out there on the field and put them subject to injury.
Don't you get to the point though, Joe, at quarterback, where you work that area of the pocket, whether it's a certain person there or not, and because during the season people do get nicked up, and somebody else come in, you just got to keep working the same area of the pocket.
That you do. I mean, you have to remain. You have to remain with your discipline. And obviously, we talk about what's interesting in today's football, which is a little different than years gone by. Not really though, but we talk about the 5 guys up front. But then again, you have to have those backs that can pick up the blitzes. They'd be able to pick up the linebackers, be able to pick up the safeties. If not, if not stone them, at least get in their way, so you don't get the free runners. And those are, and this is the thing also about Jayden is he does move well in a pocket. And he protects the ball.
Totally.
We see Justin Fields struggling with this still to this day. You get people around it, the ball gets away from him, and the ball's on the ground. Jayden does a nice job of protecting the ball, getting his feet reset, getting the ball out of his hands. Those are the tiny little things that matter so much. The ball is a vital piece of machinery that everybody wants a piece of. And you have to protect it at all costs.
As Joe would say, ball is life.
It's such a great point, Joe, because one of the things that's really impressed me with Jayden is in practice during 11-on-11s, when he is on the move and they're moving him around a decent amount, he stops and sets his shoulders before he fires, even when he's rolling to his opposite side. And I feel like a lot of young quarterbacks never think about that little step, and your chance of an accurate pass is so much significantly higher.
When you think about it, when you think about throwing a football, actually, to be honest with you, I was a bit more accurate to my left than I was to my right. It's a little bit in tennis. In tennis, you take your forehand for granted. But yet, if you're going to hit a good backhand, you have to turn your shoulders. You have to get the racket set, and then you're able to release. It's a little bit like football. If you're rolling to the right, you don't need to be quite as on point to be able to get the ball. I watched Caleb Williams make a throw yesterday, a little bit on the run. That's fine. But if you're rolling left and you try and do that, you've got no chance. From an accuracy standpoint, it's incredibly worse. So to be able to adjust your shoulders, to be able to have your belly button and your shoulders face the target you're looking for is key. And like I said, fundamentally, Jayden's had some great training. Before he got to us, he's had some great training in college to work on those little things that matter when it comes to being able to get a completion versus an incompletion.
I mean, Brian Kelly, who you know well from his days with the Golden Domers, he might not be the nicest fella, but he's a hell of a coach.
Yeah.
We are talking with our friend.
He's a nice guy. He's a nice guy.
You know him better. I'm only just standing from afar. Joe, I don't know that you've thought about this, but I looked this up. You started 124 games for the Redskins over a decade, right? You won 30 more games than you lost. That's what this is about. Ultimately, is winning damn ball games.
Yep. Yeah.
That is really impressive.
Yeah, we had a heck of a run. I mean, I was very blessed to play with an incredible group of guys in an incredible system. Coach Gibbs and his staff were absolutely phenomenal. And it was I called us a group of guys with characters with character. Believe me, there was a bunch of characters. We used to do stuff that, would be legendary in today's game. But we had a lot of fun playing together, and we played for one another. And there wasn't one guy on that field that shied away from wanting to be the guy to make the play, whether it's to block a kick, whether it's to make a catch, whether it's to make a block for somebody else. It was an unselfish group of guys that did anything they needed to do to help us win football games. It was never about us as individuals, but it was about all of us together being able to, what can I do to help you? What do I need to do to get better so that we can contribute together? And that was the fun run that we had. I mean, 1983, that year we went 14-2. I used to sit in those meetings, and there was no doubt in my mind we were going to win. The only question that I had as I stepped on that football field was how many points I thought we could score. I mean, that's how proficient we were at what we did in that particular year. And, it's funny you say 29 touchdown passes. Guys are at that number today with 7 games to go. I mean, that's how much the game has changed. It's like, oh, geez, he's had 29 touchdown passes. What's he going to do the rest of the season?
Well, to your point, in that 83 season, you guys finished the year first in points, third in yards. You were 5th in passing touchdowns. So you ranked up at the top of the league, first in rushing attempts. You guys were running the hell out of the football and still throwing it quite well.
And I expect us, the Commanders, I expect us to be able to do, pretty much the same. That we've got, like I say, that's another thing we talk about, coordination of the offensive line, the ability to run the football. If you're able to run the football in early downs, then you're able to control down in distance and be able to control the game. And you have to be able to run it at the end of the game. You're not going to protect the lead dropping back throwing the football. We've seen too many leads dissipate for us late in games because we haven't been able to control the clock. And that's where the toughness comes up. That's where those guys up front are going to make a world of difference. And it seems like a lot of this conversation, I'm talking about the guys up front, and I wanted to, because they're a very essential part. The most underrated position in football is the center. Doesn't get enough credit. He's the traffic cop. He does all the things that you need to do to be able to get people in the right place so that you get that extra split second to throw the ball, or that you go to the second level and you get that next block that springs the big one.
Well, I don't think it's an accident they signed Biotis.
I told him center may be more important than left tackle.
Yeah, but you know what? That's interesting, too, because the left tackle was always considered the premier offensive line position. But now you have both ends are open. It used to be most of the time the tight end was on the right side. So you had the left tackle basically one-on-one with the right defensive end. Nowadays, you've got 4 wides, 5 wides. You're in the gun. Both sides are open. So to me, the history of the left tackle isn't what it used to be. Yes, that's what it was, because it was the open side. Now you better darn well have a good right tackle. And look at the leading sackers in all of football. They were left defensive ends, which came from the right side.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting, yeah.
So it's that whole concept about hey, pay the left tackle a ton of money. You better not ignore the right, though.
There you go.
Joe, I should have asked this earlier. Jayden checking out of a screen, throwing that beautiful deep pass to Dyami. What'd you make of that in a preseason game?
I like the fact that he's involved in the offense to a point where he can recognize things. Now, it's going to get more and more complex as we move closer, and then you're going to have 60 minutes of football, hopefully more than just 30 minutes of football against Tampa Bay in the opener. But those are to be able to recognize a front, and again, credit to the coaching to be able to bring them to that point, to recognize it and say, okay, I've got one-on-one. And I guarantee you, Cliff has said, hey, look, if you get the look that you think you can get, let it go. That's trust in your quarterback and trust in the system, and it's trust in the wide receiver that he's going to get open. BMitch, this. You check to a play as a quarterback, and you're the guy that's going to get the ball, or you anticipate it. It's a different mindset, totally different mindset. I've got to run this route a little bit more crisp. I know I've got the opportunity, and so when you get that chance to be able to go down the field and make that kind of throw and make that kind of catch, that's special. Those moments are special.
Yeah,
Joe, thank you so much for making time for us, man. We really appreciate it.
I love visiting with you guys. Take care. Hope to see you soon.